Lauren and Andy test out their Wonder Twin powers, while the rest of the team plans an attack on the secret Trask facility. But is their intelligence any good? Or have they been played from the very beginning? It's The Gifted, Season 1, Episode 9, outfoX. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review of The Gifted. So yes, here's your standard spoiler warning. Alright, so good episode this week, I thought. Really good pacing. They kept the story moving forward. They didn't dwell on any kind of cheesy, emotional, overplayed drama. And they didn't bother telling the entire story. They told a chunk of it, basically the planning and the attack and the kids learning about their powers, and waited for the rest of the stuff to go on for next episode and moving forward. So I thought they did a really good job in pacing this episode, in moving everything forward, and really kind of setting up a good couple of interesting story points. So let's start things off with the Struckers, actually, who, parental-wise, really didn't annoy me this week. And I was happy for that. No, actually, I thought they did a really good job in dealing with the stuff that Reed's going through, the loss of his father, and the kind of, concern. Am I a mutant? I was a mutant, and I thought I had leukemia for 2 years, and it tore the family apart. And his discussion with Caitlin, I thought it was good. I mean, in some ways, I still have part of the, why are they always thinking about if things could be different and the alternates, the possibilities, and freaking out about stuff. But they didn't do that. And part of me sort of feels that maybe the Fenris storyline was not part of the original setup for this series. They did seem to extend the series. It was originally listed as 10, it's at 13. And I wonder if once they started building things up and they got through our whole first chunk of the show, which was establishing the Struckers as mutants, and they're on the run, and they've got to join up the mutant HQ, and what we felt the series was kind of about, and then realized they had to sort of build things more, because pacing-wise, things seemed to just move a little better in this episode. So, I don't know, just sort of a thought. But I did like how they dealt with those moments and then moved on. Caitlin, it's like, yes, that destroyed your family. We're not going to let it destroy our family. Even the discussion later on that the two of them had about telling the kids their potential link up with their great-grandfather and aunt. And, as an aside, some of the comments, there have been some discussion about, were the Fenris twins Otto's parents? No, they have explicitly and several times in this episode pointing out grandfather and great-aunt. Not a couple. We still don't know anything about the grandma, but just sort of to make that point. But even in that point in dealing with it, in Caitlin's idea of like, look, no more secrets. We do have to tell them. Reed's comment of, isn't that like giving them a loaded gun? Doesn't really even ring true so much because in effect they already have the gun. You should tell them that that's what they have in their hands. So then they can be responsible for it. But anyway, they really moved forward well in this. And even the kids, I thought, with their little evolution report, worked well. Now, I was a little surprised there was an actual library in the Mutant HQ, and that they would manage to come up with this book that talks about, their great-grandparent, or great-grandparent and sister. Anyway, though, I guess if you think for a moment, if there is going to be a library in the Mutant HQ, it would have books that talked about mutants in one form or another. So, kind of went with that. But when we get to the experimental phase, where they go and they try out their powers in the vault, right? Because that's where you test things out. It's the most secure room in the Mutant HQ, and if you do it outside, that can draw attention. So, I get this idea. But the one thing that did kind of get me was when we had that flashback in the very beginning, which showed, a year ago when they first kind of had their little Wonder Twin moment. And yes, Wonder Twins is DC, this is Marvel. It's just a joke. But when they had that, it would seem so serious, especially as Andy talked about it later on, is like, yeah, I couldn't get it out of my mind. That's when I started getting bad in school. That seemed like a significant, memorable moment. So when the parents asked the kids, hey, have you ever felt anything like this? And they said, no, that did ring a little fake with me. Now, again, I could also think that they didn't necessarily connect it with that as impactful as it seems to have been for Andy to have had such a long effect for him, that they didn't even think about it. But I suppose the uniqueness perhaps of the feeling that their power activation gave, not until he did it did he really remind Link and think that that's what could it have been. So again, I mean, I'll kind of go with it, but I almost think that would have been better if they just would have said, if you thought about this, oh, wait a minute, wasn't there that one time that they then talk about like 2 seconds later? So again, that's my only little criticism of that, but it's really a minor one. As I said, overall, I thought they moved everything really well. They kept the storyline telling, and I liked how the parents reacted. They weren't overreacting. Reed was smart when he seemed like things were getting a little too glowy and a little too intense to break them up. And their response of, especially Lauren's, because you were used to having Andy being the one that's all about the power and the destruction and embracing his mutancy, and even has that little fight with Dad, little one, right after when they were trying to describe everything. But Lauren's response of like, I don't hate it, are you kidding? This was like the best feeling ever. I felt powerful, it felt right, it felt good. It's nice to kind of just, get that little two sides of both of them. I enjoyed them embracing and appreciating their power, and yet still not entirely sure how it all works. So the fact that the family discussed everything, were open, we're not judgy, and we're moving past even those small little emotional and natural humanistic, stress points, I thought was really handled well in this episode, and really got me excited for some of the potential this family could do. Please, Gifted writers, keep doing this. I don't want to hate the parents. Alright, now the rest of the episode, of course, is really dealing with the planning and the attack on the Trask Industries facility and the power station. But before I get into that, I want to talk a little bit about the motivation for that attack, and really centered around Esmay. Because while they played her last time, when she was introduced as very helpful and ready to jump in and all about, being a mutant and joining the underground, here she gets painted with a bit more of a suspicious light. And I think it really does call into question the entire information that we have about the attack, because everything, of course, is coming from Esmay. And when she did appear, her first appearance was to warn John about the mutant infiltrator, the H.O.U.N.D agent. And I'm starting to think the way the episode sort of played out, if perhaps Esmay is the actual infiltrator. And it would make sense if you put a false flag in there. You put a fake agent in there who seems to be the infiltrator. That draws all of the tension, and that its exposure is brought for you by a new mutant refugee coming in, who will thus gain the trust. Because, of course, our infiltrator had the H.O.U.N.D tattoo on the wrist, which is not a smart thing for a secret infiltrator to have. But if she's a decoy, playing the infiltrator, maybe even thinking that she's an infiltrator, and Esmay is the telepath, is the actual infiltrator who's coming in, exposing that, and now pushing really hard, constantly throughout this episode, to attack. We have to get in, we have to rescue the family, we have to do it now. Really brings up a lot of suspicion. I do think that she caused Polaris's little nightmare kid dream there. She was outside of the door and she was just listening in. That wouldn't make any sense. But as a telepath, to kind of push and prod a little bit of that, especially in dreams, would make a lot of sense. And of course, she is the only one with the intelligence for the operation. So it's entirely, this is all trust that's even in there. Because the fact of the matter is, they haven't gotten into Trask, so we don't actually know what's in there. Is that the secret H.O.U.N.D training facility? Is her family in there? Are mutants in there? Or is it totally a trap from the beginning? And no, Jace did have to do his little detective work to be able to go in and find the whole team there in the power facility. But that's Jace's thing. That's not necessarily Roderick Campbell's line. And if he put in the infiltrator, convincing even with their mind games, because the point is, maybe Esme doesn't even totally know that she's an infiltrator. Maybe she believes that her family is in there. She just has that strong compulsion to try and rescue them, and that's what's pushing everything, because she doesn't want to step back. She's certainly willing to manipulate Polaris, both in the dream and reaching in to get the memories of the attack on Eclipse, to suddenly pull back from her and say, oh, haven't you ever felt like you needed to do something? This is my family. She is manipulating. She is doing whatever she can to manipulate the crew into doing what it is that she wants. So yes, she may just be a manipulator, just passionate about rescuing her family. But I am really suspicious that she is actually the H.O.U.N.D agent that was sent to infiltrate and flush out the rest of the mutants. Now, the attack on the substation, I thought, was handled really well and gave us some good insights into the characters and into Blink's powers a bit, which was nice because it clarified a lot of questions we might have going in, like, why doesn't Blink just teleport the whole party right into the middle? Well, because of course she can't see anything, and it's deep, and there's concrete walls. So I like the fact that the question was brought up, and she answered it. Also, she is still learning to use her powers, so this is early stages on. Later on, it's going to be much easier for her. She can do a lot more, she can go further, and all of that stuff. But I like the fact that they address that point, and it explains why they kind of need everyone going and why you've got to have our new guys in the chairs, the Strucker parents, which I thought was sort of hilarious. That now that as the parents of the non-mutants, now they got to sit back and watch the monitors and sort of guide everyone in. But even that was all handled well. I mean, Caitlin's response to Andy and Lauren is like, look, this is the worst nightmare a parent can go through, but I am trusting you to go and to handle it. See, this is what I talk about. The parents are moving forward. We're not dwelling on any of these moments. We hit them, and then we move past them and move on. And I really like that. I really like that shift in the writing here, and I hope that maintains. So infiltrating the facility, that all went really well. I liked seeing Dreamer's powers. I liked the I liked the kid sort of reacting for the guard, like, oh my god, he's going to pull his gun, and no, he just puts him in the trash and goes out. We don't know what Dreamer told him, but it was definitely effective. And I liked using the cameras to steer them through deeper into the facility where Blink can't teleport out. Now, when the Sentinels come in, I thought that was handled also really well. And they dropped the hint. I actually rewound to rewatch it because as soon as Caitlin stares at the monitors and starts panicking, oh my god, and looking, if you go back, in that first shot, you do see just in the corner of the monitor the little Sentinel robot roll past, which would grab her attention, will explain why she's going. So, I mean, I like that they did that they actually included that in the screen and made it a quick little hidden thing. Where you're allowed to kind of like watch to catch that movement out of your eyes. It added that sense of realism to it and really, I think, worked that panic level to her. So when she's looking at the monitors and then spots it and goes, oh my god, you gotta get out of here. And again, perfect response, not a delay, not anything. As soon as you see the bad guy, you gotta tell them you gotta go. She doesn't know how to get it out. You gotta trust Reed, who has much more experience. And yes, I do like the two of them about that. For a few times I threw up, actually. I thought was also handled really well. Then we get, again, that explanation of why Blink can't get them out, which was perfectly handled. We've got and then we almost have like basically Polaris' nightmare coming true of seeing everybody locked up in Sentinel services because Sentinel gets Blink, which means they can't get out, and then soon we have Sonia, we have Dreamer, give it up to get the kids out. Why she didn't just go through the door with them, I don't know. I mean, unless we got the shot she was trying to blow smoke in everyone's face. Or trying to lay them, but really, I mean, just go through the door, lock it behind her. I don't know what she was, what delay she was going to be able to try and do there. But then we get to what I am calling our Scene of the Week for this week. And that is when everything is at its worst. The surrender. And the reason I'm calling that the Scene of the Week is because of Andy's choice. Because they link up, they think it's time to go, we can blow this place and get out of here, and it's Andy who stops them. Why? Because they're in the basement, they'll be killed, which is very smart, but also everyone else would die. And that's really important because from the beginning, Andy has been placed as the potential villain. Even earlier on in the episode, where he's feeling that his parents are just calling him a monster, because he wants to be the mutant and he's proud of his powers and he's storming off and how good it all felt. And we've really framed that as Andy is the one without that responsibility, who's the much more impetuous and could potentially go down the dark side. And here we get that complete reversal. They have the potential to escape. They have the chance to get out of there. But he doesn't do it because other people would get hurt. That is goodness. I mean, that is pure heroic chutzpah, chutzpah going on right there. It was marvelous, and it's such a great shift for the character. Because I'm much less concerned about Andy at this point. He has made that right choice. And yes, things get dark and so on, and there could still be some shifts, but it was a great way of showing how this character is not just destined for the dark side, who can make those decisions for the right reasons, and is willing to sacrifice himself in order to save other people's lives. That, and of course, the effects were really cool. I like the slow-mo hair going and everything, and the light building. It's a very cool effect. I mean, I love the whole idea about it. But just the emotional impact that goes on and the character redefinition that happened in that scene, I think just really defines that as a great move forward for the show and the characters. All right, so just a few small things. One, of course, we got a mention of the Hellfire Club, which I thought was great. Also, a little bit of what happened to our Fenris twins, that they disappeared after being chased by the X-Men. So there's going to be a little more secret history that we will have to uncover. But just bringing up the Hellfire Club I thought was perfect, because it really does. It gives us our tie into First Class really nicely. And even though if this is alternate universe, it doesn't have to be that particular sequence of events. It's just a great reminder, and it's a great connection to a really classic X-Men villainous group that doesn't get, I think it's never really gotten the proper attention that it deserves. We've never seen the gravity altering powers of Leland. And man, his death is probably one of my favorite moments in all of X-Men comics. But I'm going aside. I was excited that we got by Hellfire Club, that we were getting all of these little Easter eggs and connections. It really breathes more life into this world. Oh, and yes, as was mentioned in comments last week, Esmay is Esmay Cuckoo, yeah, of the Stepford Cuckoos. They were all clones of Emma Frost. There were 5 of them originally, so it would be actually kind of cool if they do get in the Trask facility and they do find her family and it's her 4 identical twins. I'm glad the bar scene was quick. I thought it was handled recently well. The one point that kind of annoyed me is the spoon brass knuckles, or stainless steel knuckles, I guess they would be. One little reactionary for Polaris. I don't care if she wants the genetically diverse appreciated. But really what got me was, why did you leave them on the table? At least straighten the spoon out. It's going to wake up and someone's going to be looking at that like, why is there a spoon bent as brass knuckles here? I'm just saying, you shouldn't leave clues like that around. Evidence. So Campbell did get burned by the explosion from Otto Strucker there, and doesn't want anesthetic. Prefers his own mutant group to be able to do the work on him. Basically that means now we're going to have Roger Campbell with some badass scars. When Jace and the rest of Sentinel services are at the power station, you know, getting ready to check to see if it's in fact being attacked, the tech behind him just calls out, "Remote systems just targeted. We got mutants." What remote systems? I mean, I assume the first guy on the laptop was at least like checking security cameras, so I figured that's how they were going to see who they were looking for. But this sort of seems to imply a, you know, again, a mutant sensing thing, you know, some sort of, and it's probably something that's on the Sentinels in order to target. I'm not doubting that they have them, but if you do, why is it so hard to find Mutant HQ? When you have these everywhere, just put them on helicopters and have them flying all over the area until you pick someone up? I'm just saying, it moved the scene forward well, but it was also very unclear. What remote systems just targeted? What are you talking about? Alright, so I think that pretty much covers everything. So now we have a bunch of our mutants now captured by Roderick Campbell and going to be submitted to Trask services. From the previews, of course, for next week, they have focused up on the Strucker twins. Wants to get their powers. And it looks like someone's getting shot. Who's it going to be? Well, we know it's not the Strucker twins. We know that it's not Blink. So this could be Sonya's last episode next week. Or we're going to have some other mutant red shirt that we pulled out and used to threaten with. Not entirely sure. Good to like everybody, so I hope we don't lose anyone. But it does always heighten the stakes. We will have to wait until next week to find out. And hopefully we will get some clarification on if Esmay is in fact a H.O.U.N.D infiltrator, or just someone trying to get to her family and willing to do anything to make that happen. We'll have to wait to find out. So, thank you so much for joining me on this review. If you enjoyed it, please go ahead and hit that like button. You can also share it across many of your social media platforms. Thoughts, ideas, comments, please, as always, throw those down in the section below. You know I answer every question you guys make. I try to respond to every comment. I love the dialogue we have. You guys teach me stuff that I miss, just as I get to sort of rant and ramble around right here. So please, if you do have any thoughts on the episode, what do you think about Esme? Is she an infiltrator or not? Are we going to find H.O.U.N.D at Trask Industries, or is that something else? Please throw your thoughts down in the section below. Now you can always catch me on Twitter and Instagram. I am at Darren Jakes. And if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. It's quick, it's easy. You just got to hit one button. You'll catch the rest of these reviews. Plus, we're doing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And next year, we're going to be doing Legion, American Gods, Westworld when it returns, and of course, Game of Thrones. Plus, anything else that seems really interesting and I have time for. So, join us by just hit my face right here. There it is. And I'll go ahead and throw up our latest couple reviews right here, and you can check those out. So, again, thanks so much for joining us. I am D, and I'm out of here. Catch you guys next time. Bye-bye.